My fiancée, Syed, she wanted a real man after I opened up emotionally, so I let her marry a narcissist and watched it crumble online. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that real strength doesn't come from how much money you make or how loudly you speak. It comes from being emotionally honest. I wasn't always that way. In my early 20s, I was guarded, the type of man who thought showing emotion made you weak. But after losing a close friend and going through therapy, I realized that opening up, truly opening up, was one of the hardest, bravest things a person could do. That's who I was when I met Lauren. We met at a mutual friend's engagement party. She was laughing at a joke I made, and for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. She told me later that night, "You're not like most guys. You actually listen." And that stuck with me. From that point on, everything felt right. We spent hours talking about everything. Dreams, fears, childhood wounds. She told me she admired how emotionally grounded I was. I thought I'd found someone who valued the same things I did: connection and authenticity. For the first year, we were inseparable. I'd cook for her after work, leave her little notes on her desk, and she'd tell me I made her feel safe. But every now and then, she'd say things that didn't sit right. Once, when I talked about being anxious about a job interview, she laughed softly and said, "You worry too much. Real men just go for it." I smiled it off, thinking she was joking. But those comments started to grow. Little hints that maybe, just maybe, she didn't value the kind of strength I offered. I told myself it was nothing, yet deep down, something inside me whispered that I might be wrong. The first real cracks started showing about a year into our relationship. At first, they were almost invisible. Small remarks, subtle shifts in tone, but they slowly began to echo louder in my head. Lauren had always been ambitious, driven, the kind of woman who wanted control over every detail of her life. I admired that about her, but lately, her confidence had started to feel more like dominance. One night after dinner, I told her I was thinking of switching careers. My current job paid well, but it didn't make me happy. I wanted to do something that felt meaningful. She sighed, pushing her plate aside. "Why do you always have to chase fulfillment?" she said. "Can't you just be practical for once? You sound uncertain." "Because I am uncertain," I said, trying to smile through the tension. "But that's part of figuring things out, right?" She leaned back, eyes sharp. "That's the problem. You overthink everything. I need someone who knows what he wants." That conversation haunted me for days. I started to wonder if being open and reflective, the very qualities she once said she loved, had somehow become flaws in her eyes. When we went out with her friends, she began making jokes at my expense. "He's the emotional one." She'd laugh when I tried to talk about something serious. "Sometimes I feel like I'm the man in the relationship." Everyone would laugh, and I'd force a grin, pretending it didn't sting. At home, she'd act like nothing happened. She'd curl up next to me on the couch, kiss my cheek, and tell me she loved me. And every time, I convinced myself that love was enough to excuse the tiny cuts. But I was wrong. Those cuts were just the beginning of the wound that would soon split everything open. It happened on a night that started out perfectly ordinary. I'd just come home from a brutal day at work, missed deadlines, a rude client, and a boss who seemed determined to push me past my limit. Lauren was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, barely looking up when I walked in. I sat down next to her and sighed. "Rough day," I said quietly. "I think I'm burning out. Sometimes I just feel like I'm not enough, you know?" She didn't respond right away. Her thumb hovered over her screen before she finally glanced at me. "You always say that," she muttered. "You really need to toughen up." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I tried to explain. "I'm not trying to complain. I'm just tired. I need a break. Maybe a weekend away or—" That's when she laughed, a small, bitter laugh that made my chest tighten. "God, you sound like a kid who needs therapy, not a man trying to build a life." For a moment, I just stared at her. The woman who once told me she loved my honesty was now mocking me for it. I could feel my throat closing, embarrassment burning through me like fire. "So, what, you want someone who just shuts up and pretends everything's fine?" Maybe I just want someone who doesn't crumble every time life gets hard, she shot back, eyes cold. Something broke in me that night. I didn't yell or fight back. I just stood up, walked into the kitchen and stared at the reflection of my tired face in the window. For the first time, I realized I was loving someone who didn't really see me. She saw a project, not a partner, and that realization was the quiet beginning of the end. After that night, things between us shifted in a way I couldn't ignore. Lauren stopped trying to hide her disappointment in me. Every small decision became a test. How I handled the waiter, how I spoke to coworkers, how decisive I sounded when making weekend plans. It was like she was grading my masculinity, one sarcastic remark at a time. The breaking point came during a dinner with her friends. We were at a fancy rooftop restaurant, candlelight, laughter, the city glowing below. I was halfway through telling a story about a client mix-up at work when Lauren interrupted me with a smirk. "He's adorable when he gets flustered," she said, her tone sweet but sharp enough to draw blood. "You should see him when he tries to argue. He gets all emotional. It's like watching a rom-com." The table burst into laughter. I forced a smile, pretending it didn't sting, but inside, I felt something collapse. One of her friends, Mark, leaned back and joked, "Man, she's got you trained, huh?" Lauren laughed, louder than anyone else. I remember gripping my glass so tightly my knuckles went white. My pulse was hammering in my ears. "Lauren," I said quietly, "that's not funny." She rolled her eyes. "Relax, babe. It's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive." That word again, sensitive. It hung in the air like a curse. The others shifted awkwardly, sensing tension. But she just took another sip of wine, satisfied with the attention. That night, I barely spoke on the way home. She kept checking her phone, smiling at messages. When I asked who it was, she said, "Just Ryan. He's funny." I didn't know it then, but that name would come to haunt me. As we pulled into the driveway, I stared at her profile in the dim light of the dashboard, realizing she wasn't just losing respect for me, she was already finding it somewhere else. The weeks that followed felt like walking through fog. Nothing made sense anymore. Lauren became distant, almost mechanical. She'd leave early for meetings and come home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't hers. When I asked where she'd been, she'd snap, "Don't start, I'm tired," before locking herself in the bathroom with her phone. I tried to hold things together. I suggested therapy, date nights, anything to bring us back to how we used to be. But every attempt only seemed to annoy her more. One evening, I came home with takeout from her favorite restaurant, the same one we'd gone to on our first date. She barely looked up from her laptop. "Can we talk?" I asked softly. "About what?" She said flatly. "About us," I said. "It feels like I'm losing you." She closed her laptop and stared at me. Not angry, not sad, just done. "Maybe you are," she said quietly. "I think I need space to figure out what I want." A few days later, she packed a small suitcase. I stood in the doorway, numb, as she said, "You're a good guy, but I need someone who inspires me. Someone who knows who he is." The ring still sat on her finger. I remember glancing at it and asking, "So, this is it?" She hesitated, then slid it off and set it on the counter. "I'm sorry," she said, but her eyes were dry. 2 weeks later, my world collapsed again. A friend sent me a photo. Lauren and that same guy, Ryan, smiling at a bar. Her caption read, "Finally with a real man." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding, the words burning into me. The woman who once praised me for being different had traded me for the very thing she used to criticize. And for the first time, I didn't feel sadness. I felt something colder, something closer to resolve. The weeks after she left felt like falling into a pit I couldn't climb out of. I'd wake up, check my phone out of habit, and see her face plastered all over social media. Smiling, glowing, alive in a way that made it look like I'd been the thing holding her back. Each picture with Ryan felt like a knife twist. They looked perfect together. The power couple she always said she wanted us to be. I stopped eating properly. Work became meaningless. I'd stare at my computer screen for hours, rereading the same email until the words blurred. Nights were worse. The silence in our apartment was deafening. I could still smell her shampoo on the pillow, hear her laughter echoing in rooms that now felt like graves. Friends tried to reach out, but I kept pushing them away. "I'm fine," I'd lie, over and over. But I wasn't. I was broken, not because she'd left, but because I'd believed her when she said I wasn't enough. One night, I sat on the floor surrounded by old photos, vacations, birthdays, that first Christmas together. I caught my reflection in the dark TV screen and didn't recognize the man staring back. That's when I realized I'd built my entire identity around being loved by someone who didn't even like who I was. So I did something small but symbolic. I deleted every photo of her. Then I called a therapist, the same one who'd helped me years ago when I was learning to open up. The next day, I went for a run, just to feel something again. That was the start of rebuilding. Slow, painful, but real. Because for the first time in months, I wasn't trying to win her back. I was trying to find myself again. Months passed. I was still healing, still piecing myself together. Therapy helped me confront truths I'd been avoiding, how I'd mistaken emotional connection for compatibility, how I'd tolerated disrespect in the name of love. By then, I'd started jogging regularly, cooking for myself again, even reconnecting with old friends I'd drifted from. My nights were quiet, but they were peaceful. For the first time in years, peace didn't feel empty. Then one morning, while scrolling through social media, I froze. There it was, Lauren's engagement post. A picture of her and Ryan on a beach, her hand proudly displaying a diamond ring, the caption reading, "Found my forever with my real man." My chest tightened, but not from heartbreak this time. Something else, something sharper. I just stared at it, realizing how fast it had all happened. We'd broken up less than 6 months ago. Now she was engaged to the same man she'd once sworn was just a friend. Friends started messaging me screenshots, saying things like, "You dodged a bullet," or "She's moving way too fast." But I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I could already see the pattern repeating, the same filtered smiles, the same too perfect captions. Still, something in her expression struck me. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Maybe it was just the lighting, or maybe, deep down, she knew she'd built this fairy tale out of ego, not love. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, and finally whispered to myself, "Good luck, Lauren." It wasn't bitterness, it was resignation. She'd made her choice, and as much as it hurt to admit, I was finally starting to accept that walking away was the best decision I ever didn't make. By the time their wedding pictures started circulating, I felt strangely detached, like I was watching a movie I'd already seen. The captions were nauseatingly perfect. 2 souls, 1 destiny. Marrying my best friend. But I could read between the lines. Every post felt more like a performance than a celebration. The smiles looked too practiced, the laughter too forced. Then, a few months later, the tone shifted. Gone were the glamorous couple selfies. In their place were vague quotes about outgrowing people and protecting your peace. I tried not to care, but curiosity has a way of creeping in when you least expect it. One night, while scrolling through mutual friends' stories, I saw something that made me pause. A video from a party. Lauren was sitting alone at a table staring at her phone while Ryan laughed with another woman near the bar. The woman placed a hand on his arm, and Lauren's expression said everything. She looked hollow. It was the same look I used to have, sitting quietly while she flirted for attention. The irony was suffocating. A week later, one of my buddies texted me, "Bro, have you seen Lauren's posts? Something's up." I checked, and sure enough, she'd shared a cryptic line. "Sometimes the person who promises to protect you is the one you need protection from." That was the first time I felt something other than anger or grief. It was a strange mix of sadness and justice, like watching karma unfold in slow motion. I didn't gloat. I didn't comment. I just closed the app, leaned back and exhaled. She'd once told me I was too emotional, too soft, too introspective. But now, it seemed her real man had turned out to be everything she used to say she didn't want, and everything she deserved to experience firsthand. It started with a TikTok. A shaky, tearful video of Lauren sitting in her car, mascara smudged, voice trembling. I didn't follow her, but a friend sent it to me with the message, "You need to see this." In the video, she said, "I thought I found my forever, but I was wrong. Sometimes people only pretend to love you to feel powerful." She didn't mention Ryan by name, but it was obvious. The comment section exploded. People dissected every word, dug through her old posts, and soon enough screenshots of her real man captions resurfaced. The internet remembered everything, including the one where she mocked me for being too sensitive. The irony didn't go unnoticed. One viral comment read, "Didn't she leave her ex because he was too emotional? Now she's crying because her new guy doesn't care at all." I didn't laugh. I didn't feel victorious. I just watched from the sidelines as her picture-perfect world cracked in front of millions. The same filters that once made her look flawless now made her look lost. Every new video she posted got more desperate, more cryptic. Then, one night, Ryan's ex-girlfriend posted a bombshell. Screenshots of texts, photos, proof that he'd been cheating on Lauren for months. The story spread like wildfire. Suddenly, the woman who once strutted online with superiority became the internet's cautionary tale. People messaged me again saying, "Man, you really dodged a bullet." But I didn't reply. Instead, I just stared at the glow of my phone in the dark room, feeling a quiet, strange peace. For the first time, I realized I didn't need revenge or validation. Life had handled that for me. Watching her downfall didn't bring joy, it brought closure. Still, part of me wondered if she'd reach out again, if she'd finally admit the truth she'd spent years running from. It happened late one night. I was lying in bed, scrolling absent-mindedly through my phone when a notification popped up. Lauren. Her name lit up my screen like a ghost I'd already buried. For a long moment, I just stared at it, unsure if I should even open it. But curiosity, that old familiar ache, got the better of me. Her first message was short. "I'm sorry." Before I could respond, another followed. "You didn't deserve how I treated you. I thought I knew what I wanted, but I didn't. Ryan. He wasn't who I thought he was." I sat there in silence, rereading every word. It was strange. A year ago, I would have killed to hear those exact sentences. But now, they didn't land the same way. There was no rush of satisfaction, no burning need for revenge. Just calm detachment. I finally replied, "I appreciate you saying that. I hope you're okay." Her next message came quickly. "I'm not." I thought confidence meant control. I thought strength meant being loud. But you were strong in ways I never understood. You were kind when I was cruel. I stared at the blinking cursor, unsure what to say. After a long pause, I typed, "We both learned our lessons, I guess." She didn't respond right away. When she finally did, it was just one line. "You've changed so much." I smiled faintly at that, because she was right. I had changed, not into what she wanted, but into who I was always meant to be. Before putting my phone down, I deleted the conversation. Not out of anger, but closure. For once, it didn't hurt to let her go. It felt necessary. A year after that final message, my life looked completely different. I'd moved to a new apartment across town, smaller, quieter, filled with sunlight instead of memories. The walls didn't echo with old arguments. They hummed with the sound of peace. I'd started journaling again, going to the gym, even volunteering at a local shelter on weekends. Somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling like the broken version of myself that Lauren left behind. Then, one evening, I met someone new. Her name was Claire. We met at a mutual friend's art exhibit, both reaching for the same cup of coffee at the refreshment table. She laughed when it spilled on her sleeve, brushing it off with a smile that didn't feel performative. It felt real. Our conversation was easy, unforced. She didn't demand confidence from me. She simply recognized it when it showed up naturally. In the months that followed, being with her felt like breathing clean air after years of smoke. She asked about my past once, and when I told her, she didn't pity me. She said, "You must have loved deeply to hurt that much. That's not weakness. That's courage." I didn't know how much I needed to hear that until then. With Claire, I didn't have to prove I was a real man. I could just be one. Honest, flawed, evolving. The love felt balanced this time, built on mutual respect rather than power. Sometimes, when I'd catch a glimpse of Lauren's old posts floating around online, I'd feel a brief pang, not of love but gratitude, because without that pain, I never would have found peace. And for the first time, the future didn't look like something I needed to earn. It looked like something I was already living. It's strange how life comes full circle. There was a time when I thought my story ended the day Lauren walked out, that losing her meant losing the best parts of myself. But now, looking back, I see it differently. She didn't destroy me. She revealed me. The version of me that existed back then, desperate for validation, terrified of rejection, had to fall apart so something stronger could take its place. I still believe in vulnerability. I still believe real men cry, doubt, and feel deeply. The difference is, I no longer apologize for it. I used to think emotional honesty made me small. Now I know it's what kept me from becoming hollow. Every once in a while, I get messages from people who saw the old videos of Lauren, the ones that went viral when everything fell apart. They ask if I feel vindicated. But truthfully, I don't. Karma isn't something I celebrate. It's something I witness quietly. Watching her crumble wasn't satisfying. It was instructive. It reminded me that pretending to be strong is easy. Living with authenticity isn't. Now, my life is calm in the best possible way. Claire and I cook dinner together most nights. We talk about our days, laugh about stupid things, and sit in comfortable silence that doesn't need to be filled. I still have scars, but they've stopped aching. They've started reminding me of what I survived. Sometimes, when I think of Lauren, I whisper the same words I once told myself. Good luck. Not sarcastically, genuinely, because I finally understand that closure doesn't come from revenge or apology. It comes from acceptance.